Jimbo Paris, and you are listening to The Jimbo Paris Show. All right. How's it going, everyone? This is Jimbo Paris here, back at you again with The Jimbo Paris Show. So today we have a special guest, Alan. He is the founder of Purpose-Driven Coaching. And essentially, he's focused on accelerating difference makers and sort of helping them to kind of optimize what they're doing. And so he's a coach, but he comes at you with a different angle. And obviously, I want you all to watch the entire show here. So we're going to kind of go into that right now and just listen in. You know, he's a pretty interesting guy.
Hi, Jimbo. Good to see you.
Hello, how are you doing? You doing?
I'm fantastic. Fantastic. Can you hear me okay?
Quite good, quite good. So, can you tell me a little bit about who you are, what you're about, and what your message is?
Yeah, absolutely can. So, as you can see, my name is Alan Mulliger, and kind of the approach to coaching for the longest time, I guess you could have called me a mindset coach. So helping people kind of break through mental blocks and things like that to help them achieve success. And I was doing that for sales teams and leading them to their top years ever. And through all that, I wasn't really finding myself fulfilled. And so I was trying to figure out, what is it actually that I care about? What is it actually that I'm passionate about? And what I found is that there's a particular kind of entrepreneur out there that their primary motivation isn't money. It's not titles. It's not watches, cars, success, accolades, all these kinds of things. Those things are nice. But what they're particularly motivated by is making a difference, making an impact. And if they have that, then they're happy, they're excited, they're fulfilled. And I just noticed that those kinds of entrepreneurs are wired a little differently. They function differently. They focus differently. And so my mission, my thing that I'm here to do is to help those people really get connected to who they truly are, why they're here, and how they're meant to bring it to the world.
Okay. So how do you begin to sort of connect yourself to that goal and sort of to connect other to that goal as well?
It's a fantastic question. It really all starts with kind of like we all have heard about getting our whys, like knowing what your why is. But I found with, and perhaps this is with everybody, I'm not sure, but with difference makers, certainly, there's something that I call their super why. It's something that they've had since they were a child. It's been there their whole life. And it's this particular shift, this change that they like to see in the people around them. They're constantly giving, consciously or unconsciously, whether it is to install the belief that people around them are loved, people around them are seen, that life is extraordinary, anything is possible. There's a particular belief that they like to install in human beings. And so for myself, the first and foremost thing always is to know what my super why is and to remind myself of it. And by having that, it already gets the juices flowing, gets me excited to continue to serve.
Okay. I'm just curious too, where are you from?
So I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, about an hour north of the city, then was in California for a bit, and now I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay. And being a Chicagoan, what do you call it there? Is it
Chicagoan? Yeah.
Chicagoan. Okay. How was it like growing up there? Did that sort of contribute to sort of your mindset and maybe your lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up, so growing about an hour north of this, so all the people in Chicago would really hate me for saying I'm from Chicago because I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, really. But it was kind of I would say the area I grew up in, pretty small town. It was a small area and everyone liked the same sports teams. Everybody had the same way of thinking. And, I think how it shaped me is there was this, I was kind of noticing very quickly how the general motivations that most people are shooting for, go get a basic job, it pays you just enough, take out some college loans, have massive debt, work your whole life, and then retire in Florida. I was just like, this doesn't look fun to me. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I was like, I want something more than that. I want something different. And so I think in terms of my upbringing, that little piece probably shaped me the most, seeing that there's got to be more than just the thing that everybody does. And it's what led me into entrepreneurship. It's what led me into coaching, and really trying to figure out like, what is the thing that motivates me? What's the thing that gets me excited, that gets me focused, even when things are going crazy all around me, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And it kind of helps me to get a better understanding of who you are. So, sort of, what is your expertise?
I would say, to put it into a bucket, I would call it transformational coaching, which is a particular kind of coaching that for me, it's really integrating like the emotional, spiritual, somatic aspect of it, using every tool I've got in my toolbox, no matter what it takes, to help someone have that breakthrough they really need to see the thing that they haven't been seeing, so they can take their life to the next level. Because I found that 98 to 99% of the time, the reason that we're not getting where we want to go is because of things we're not aware of. And so it's really doing whatever I can to help bring that something into their awareness, and then do whatever is necessary to release it, rewrite it, so they can get and move on to their next level.
How is confidence displayed?
In human beings in general?
Yes, and in you.
I think confidence, if we're talking about physiologically, because physiology determines psychology, confidence can be, your posture, where your shoulders are at, where your head is at, how fast you're speaking, how slow, the cadence, where your eyes are going. And all that, I think we can manufacture if we want to manufacture confidence. But I think where it really comes from, if I'm being honest with you, I think true, real, unshakable confidence comes from being really connected to who you truly are, what really makes you happy, not what you're conditioned to be, not what you were told you needed to be, or trying to fit in with society, but really figuring out like, hey, what is it actually that makes Jimbo like happy in life? What is it that gets him really excited? What's it that gets him really driven, passionate, that gets him to want to wake up early and do it every day without question? Knowing that piece, knowing the why you're here. If you know why you're here. Example, the two things I bucket into why you're here is the person you're here to serve, that you just love serving more than anything. Like you've fallen in love with serving that person. And then what you're meant to bring them is the why piece. If you know what you're meant to bring the person you love serving, that's going to add to your confidence. And then that third piece of how you're meant to bring it to the world, your method, your delivery process, the way that it comes in, materializes in physical reality. If you have those three things, it is very difficult to not be overwhelmingly confident. So that's what I would say where I find confidence really comes from.
Oh yeah, I think you're right about that. I've definitely been doing this for about 4 years. You can't hate something like this and do it for so long. So
yeah, exactly.
That's a part of it. And I'm curious too, as this purpose-driven coach, how would you describe your own ideal life?
I will answer that. And I have to say, in listening to the episodes and just doing some quick research, one of the things I loved about all the questions you asked previous people on the show is how you ask such fantastic questions that really get to root curiosity. And I was really wondering, how am I going to feel when he asks me these questions, that he just gets it right in the moment. And I'm like, wow, so I just want to really just acknowledge you for just asking really fantastic questions.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
It's amazing. It's really fun to be on the other side of, and I appreciate your craft and your intention with it, because clearly it is very intentional. My ideal life for me, this is going to sound so hokey and so lame. I'm so sorry for this answer, but one that is truly just absolutely full of love in every single way, but not just love, but an extraordinary, unbelievable, immeasurable amount of it. That in my intimate relationship, it is built with no fear, no pain, just absolute support for one another. That with what I'm doing, my clients feel the love that I'm bringing into their worlds, and I feel it from them. And then in whether it's a random person on the street or whatever it is, that there's just a different feel, a different vibe that they get by being around me, being in the same space with me. Whatever it is, that they just are, there's a palpable feeling of love and contribution in every single step of life. That to me is what an extraordinary life looks like. Take away all the, material stuff. The material stuff doesn't even matter. The material stuff, it comes effortlessly, I believe, when that level of life is being played at. But to me, a life that is totally full of love and contribution, that to me is what and extraordinary and what my ideal life would look like.
Love and contribution. Okay. And what issues do you think are most important to deal with in our society now as a transformational coach?
Yeah, fantastic question. I would say the number one thing that I see that's a real challenge, and it was something that I heard a speaker share at an event, and when he shared it, it completely changed my life. Because up until the point that I heard this, I was constantly searching for something to come and save me. I thought there was like something outside of me that was going to help. I remember at one point I was like, oh, if I just have a sales job with unlimited commissions and I just make as much money as possible, then I'm going to be happy. And then I burnt out and I was like, well, that's not it. So maybe I swung all the way to the other side of the pendulum and I went to corporate America. And I was like, maybe it's comfort and certainty. Maybe that's what's going to make me happy. And then my soul died. And I was like, nope, that's not it either. So then I was like, well, maybe it is selling. It's just for a company and a product that I really believe in. Maybe that's it. And then after 6 months there, didn't like it either. Then I took I cut my pay down to a fourth of what it was at that company, then to go work for a coaching company. Like, if I'm just coaching and speaking and talking, if I'm doing something that I'm meant to be doing, then that's it. And I gave this message where I had built the whole thing from scratch. I was doing the thing I was supposed to be doing. And after I gave this message where everyone's crying and they're having these breakthroughs, and it was such a big thing, a beautiful thing, I walked off stage and was more depressed than I've ever been in my entire life. So I was like, what the heck is it? What is the answer? How do we actually become happy in life? W2F. That was kind of my situation. And the speaker comes up after me, and he was just nailing it the whole time. And you have to understand, I'm in an existential crisis at this point. I'm angry. I'm pissed. I'm depressed. I'm like, I want to go home. This sucks. And he's coming on just on fire. And I'm like, screw you for being on fire. I was just angry at him for being the way he was at that point. But then he said this line that I'll never forget. He says, when I used to walk off stage and people would come and give me feedback, if the feedback was negative, it really used to affect me. And I realized that the reason it affected me was because I was looking for things on the outside of me to make me happy on the inside. And when I realized that I was living my life outside in and needed to live my life inside out instead, to fill myself up from the inside so that I can then bring it to the outside to live in that priority structure, everything changed. And as soon as he said that, my eyes got huge. I was like, what does this mean, inside out, outside in? And I started looking at it from a different angle. I stopped looking to the Tony Robbins events and the books and the self-help people and all these places to try to give me the answers. And I started getting obsessed with answering this question: how do I find my answers? And that changed everything. So I think that for society, especially like if you think about just the simple act of scrolling on your phone, when you scroll, all you're doing is constantly being fed something from the outside in. And most people are looking for things like connection. They're looking for things like love. They're looking for something on that phone, happiness, whatever it is. But even that practice is a practice of outside in, wishing that the phone would give me something versus asking the authentic question: what makes me happy and what doesn't make me happy? And how do I go find it? How do I go create it? And I think if society made that little change, it would create the most amount of transformation.
That's really impressive. So what you're trying to imply here is, instead of looking for the answers externally, like most people through self-help books, all these other things, you really get those answers from you internally.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Well, and also too, like it can come externally, but it comes from like trial, error, failure, like trying things, doing things, going out and serving. Like I can't tell you, Jimbo, the amount of times that I've coached and failed, the amount of times that I've ran an event and blew it. Right. But it's like you learn by trial and error, like, oh, I liked that. I didn't like that. That felt really good. That didn't feel good. So sometimes it can come from the external source, but it still requires that we get out and do something and actually take action to get that insight. So yeah, a little extra piece there.
No, yeah, okay. Okay. So what you're saying, it's more of you aim by asking those questions internally, then you fire by going after it, using the grit, the will. Okay. Okay. And also, what activities make you lose track of time? Maybe forget that, you're actually doing something right now. Maybe you're just so passionate, so into it, as you explained that guy on the stage, that, you just lose track of it. Have you ever experienced something like that?
All the time. Yeah, I lose track of time all the time. And I think it really comes from the number one activity where I lose track of time is talking with people. And it's why I love being a coach, right? I think especially in today's world, like, you got to be honest, like, if you're going to be a coach in today's world, you don't love it, like really love it. It's going to be a struggle bus. It's going to be a challenge. The market is so saturated today. And you know this, like even with podcasts, right? There's so much saturation. It's important to love it. And when it comes to talking with people about what's really going on in their life and what they really love, what drives them, what lifts them up, what pulls them through all the challenges, like that stuff, I can have that conversation for hours. I even remember there was a barbecue I went to a couple of weekends ago, and the food was ready. It was all made, but me and this girl, we were on the couch and we were chatting, and I was talking about like what she's passionate about, what she loves. And we were on that couch for 2.5 hours talking. Everyone had already eaten. The food was basically gone. And I said, here, you go ahead and eat. I'll eat later on. But usually having conversations about, for whatever reason it is, like, I really love speaking with people about what really lights them up in life. Because I really do believe, like, we've got one shot. We're here one time. So you might as well know exactly what it is that lights you up more than anything else in this lifetime.
That's interesting. So okay, that's a really interesting story. And speaking with that woman, did you end up making her one of your clients? Did you end up working with her as one of your clients? Is that a typical story of a lot of the clients that work with you?
A lot of the times I find clients, it's through word of mouth, or through like social media. Like I just had a TikTok that did decently well. I think it got like 500,000 views. And from there, some people reached out and they said, hey, I really resonated with this. So far, a lot of the way that I get clients is through resonance. I'll say something, I'll share something, and they just kind of know through what I'm sharing. I think for them, it just hits a nerve and they go, oh, I think this is actually really real. I think this guy is onto something. And so they feel called to reach out. With her in particular, what happened is she didn't become a client of mine, but it turned out that she's a social media savant. And she was like, look, what you did in this conversation was so impactful for me. I'd love to help you. I'd love to take a look at your social media and see if I can give you any tips or some optimizations for it. And I said, amazing. So I found that even like, it's amazing how like when you're doing what you love, stuff comes your way that you never would have expected. Like, could she have been a client? Maybe, but she helped me with my social media and helped me make some tweaks. And those tweaks have been really powerful. So things come from ways and places we didn't even expect when we're doing what we love.
Okay. So you do a lot more of an inbound strategy. You let your audience sort of come to you. You could create that. Yeah, I respect that. It must have taken a while to grow that business, though, right?
Frankly, no. And I don't know why it was the case. Within the first 90 days, I had 13 clients within the first 90 days of opening. It just, I don't know, Jimbo. I think that today, especially, I think people are really tired of the cold DMs. Like, I think they're tired of being constantly reached out to. Like, I don't know if you get this, but I know that in my DMs, the amount of times that I get someone telling me about some crypto vehicle, Forex, I got coaching on this, I can teach you how to do that. It's just like, it's an onslaught. So I just think that people really aren't today looking for more DMs. I think they're just looking for more real. And it's so far, it's worked out pretty well. It's just, in every entrepreneurship journey, right? There's the ups and downs we all experience. And so, I remember having an explosive start, and then it didn't continue in that trajectory. There was some ups and downs that occurred. But for the most part, like, I'm able to get groceries, be able to take care of myself, and be able to help as many people as I can.
Yeah. That's interesting. You are definitely right about that with the cold emails. I get my fair share. I get so many SEO experts messaging me. But back to you though. I think that's a really interesting thing. Now it seems that you're very passionate about what you're doing, but I'm curious though. Imagine if you were 90 years old. Okay, what memories would you like to have sitting down at that old age, maybe with a family, maybe with a bigger house, bigger following? I don't know, but how would you see that situation?
Again, I really have to thank you on your question asking. Literally ever since I was probably 12, I always thought about myself being old, and or when you would hear about like people who are in more experienced in years at the end of their life share their regrets right before they died. Like that always really rung true to me. So I really appreciate you. It may not have felt like it, but it's a very heartfelt question you just asked me there. It hit home. I would say at 90, looking back, I would have wanted to know that I did every single possible thing that I could. Didn't leave any stone unturned, that I faced every fear, that I took every shot, even when it was terrifying, to get the message and the impact that I'm here to give people. And I would hope that at 90, what I did is mountains and light years more than I ever could have imagined I was doing at 28. That, sometimes I have aspirations. Like I think about like what Tony Robbins has built, and Tony Robbins is a big inspiration for me. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people per event. There was a time when I attended a Tony Robbins event where I looked at him doing his thing, this man who's speaking for 14 hours on fire, no breaks, no nothing, just serving. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be in that place. I know I can. So my hope at 90 years old, looking back, is that there's just a wake of an unreasonable life with unreasonable levels of impact that I can look back and say, I did everything that I could have done. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I would hope to look back on.
Okay, that's interesting. And what determines your happiness? And could a person potentially do nothing and experience happiness and contentment?
I love these questions, man. It's awesome. What determines, at least for my happiness, for me personally, and I don't know if it's everybody, but Tony has this quote where he says, the secret to living is giving. And so for me, I found I'm the most happy when I'm giving as much as I can, and the giving in and of itself is leading to my expansion, meaning I must be more, I must create more, find more solutions, let go of my own limiting beliefs so I can do more. Like as an example, there was a time when I remember Thursdays, for whatever reason, everybody wanted their coaching calls on Thursdays. So I had all my one-on-one calls. I was on the phone, or I was in Zoom rather, from 9 in the morning until 6 at night. And it was just call. No breaks, no nothing. Like I would run out, grab something to eat fast, and then come right back in and serve. And I remember that for me, like when I'm serving, my energy state, being able to serve at the highest level is a non-negotiable. It's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be at my best. And I would notice that like the last 2 calls of the day, or sometimes 3, I was getting gassed. I was running out of energy, and my coaching quality started to slump. And I was like, not acceptable. I'll find a way. And so even though at the time I couldn't afford it, I was like, I'm going to find a biohacking place near me where I can do saunas and cold plunges and get B12 injections to make sure that I'm on point. And did that. And interestingly enough, when you go into a sauna, the amount of discomfort when your heart rate increases and you're sweating and you want to die and you're like, oh my God, get me out of here. It's a spiritual process. It's an emotional process. It helped me expand. And then immediately after that, going into a cold plunge that's 43 degrees for 6 minutes straight, trying to keep yourself calm while you're experiencing your whole body is in fight or flight. That's also very spiritual and expanding. So I was like, wow, I really love it when my work demands that I expand my personal self. So for me, I would say, at least right now, that's what really brings me happiness, is when I must expand to be able to give more. To answer your second question, can someone be happy? Do I believe someone can be happy by doing nothing? I believe that someone can be content. And when you say doing nothing, I'm assuming you're meaning like no meditation, no connection to a higher power, no nothing, just being in the space.
I would consider those types of things action, because again, that's what
Yeah.
monks may do and so forth. But I'm asking more, just nothing, nothing.
I would have to say, at least for human beings, no. I think that we are our happiest when we are when we have purpose, when we are contributing. I think at that point we're the happiest.
That's fascinating. So what you're saying is, if you don't have a purpose, you're technically doing nothing. So I think with your clients though, and yeah, you're purpose-driven coaching. So
Yeah.
you're okay. I get you now. I understand you a lot better now. All right. So what emotions do you feel most comfortable with now versus when you were younger?
What emotions do I feel most comfortable with? Wow. I will tell you, the ones that I feel most uncomfortable with are like euphoria, pleasure, joy. And I think a lot of people experience that, where it's like you get those really high level emotions. And you're like, oh, that's so scary because it's so intense. So I'm working on that right now. But the ones I'm most comfortable with, I would say, one, I would say, is the experience. Like, I don't know exactly how to word this, but like, whatever it takes. Like when I'm in a situation where I am backed against a wall and there is no other option than forward. For whatever reason, I get really calm in that space. I just get, there's a calm, there's a certainty, and it feels like home. It's almost like I've found the edge, and at least now I know my edge. All right, let's keep going. So I wouldn't even call that like extreme fear, anxiety, because I don't even feel those emotions, but rather, I don't feel those emotions in that scenario. But I would say I'm most comfortable with, rather, when the world puts me in a position where I have no other option. It makes it simple. It makes the action simple.
So that's what you're about. You're about taking action. That reminds me a lot of people who have growth mindsets. You like to always, move forward, and you feel as if you're forced into a position where you have to move forward, that's a good thing for you. And that kind of incites, some emotion you're comfortable with. Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah. You've summarized that and encapsulated that incredibly well, because there's a particular paradigm in the personal growth world and in the world in general, that if you're going to take action that you're afraid of, you need to rewrite the beliefs first, or you need to have some breakthroughs first, or you need to get a coach first, or go to the event first, or whatever. And it's like, or go through the medicine journey, whatever people are into today. Then I can take the action. And I have found that, at least the way that I coach, that is significantly more effective and more powerful is, instead of trying to rewrite your beliefs so you can take action, it's taking action to rewrite the beliefs. So as an example, let's say that you have a fear of cliff jumping, and You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to. So you end up hiring a cliff jumping coach. You go to all the cliff jumping seminars. You go to a shamanic experience where they have you go through a subconscious progression where you learn that cliff jumping is safe. Cliff jumping is safe. You then go get some hypnosis. And so finally now the day has come where it's time to jump off that cliff into some water, 30 feet down. You walk over to the cliff, you look down the 30 feet and you're still terrified. You're like, nope, I'm scared. Sorry. The conditioning didn't work. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board, and you turn away and don't jump. Because you had a belief that if I jump off this 30-foot cliff, I will die. That was the belief, and you couldn't rewrite it, so not going to jump. Or you just jump. You jump off the ledge, you experience zero gravity, you land in the water, splash. You get up as fast as you can. Your head comes above the water. You look around, you see people cheering for you. You're kind of in shock and you don't know what's going on. And they're cheering. So you kind of involuntarily throw your arms up and you're like, yeah, I did something. And then you turn around and you look up at that cliff you just jumped off of. And you realize, oh my God, I did that. I just did that. I just jumped off the 30-foot cliff and I didn't die. And then all of a sudden you have this well up of energy. Maybe you start to tear up a little bit and you go, oh my God. And then you make the sound of victory. Why? Because that belief that you had can no longer exist. The belief, I will die if I jump off that cliff, because you jumped off the cliff and didn't die, it can't exist anymore. It's impossible. And so it leaves the body. And I'll tell you, that method I have found is a lot more uncomfortable than, going through all the seminars and all the things and whatever. But I've also noticed it's a lot more fulfilling, and it's a lot faster and more effective when it comes to really claiming the life that really is meaningful to you.
Okay. Excellent. And have there been any personal situations that you've been through that involve this same thing?
Oh, yeah. I remember one very in particular. I find that one of the most powerful limiting beliefs that we all have as human beings is usually tied to money. Because now today we don't have most of us don't need to worry about survival skills. We don't have to worry about, hunting our food and, living off of the back of our own ingenuity. And so money's everything. Money is survival. And I remember I was just opening my business, just getting started. This is before the wave of clients came in. So I had taken the leap out of my safe, secure job. My cousin, I remember, called me and he was like, so do you have some money saved up? And do you have this? I was like, no, I do not. There is no money saved. I'm either doing this or I'm failing. That is it. And he was like, oh my God, that sounds really risky. I was like, well, here we are. And so I remember a couple of weeks had gone by, had a couple of clients here, was just barely paying rent, just barely making by, had a little bit in reserve. And I realized, you know what, Alan, what kind of a coach am I telling people they need coaches if I myself also am not being coached? So I reached out to someone that I really trusted. I just kind of had this gut feeling like this is the right person. Hopped on with them, let them know my goals. They shared their services, the whole thing. And I was like, great, this is the right person, right product, right process. This is going to work. She then tells me the price. Way more than I could afford. It just wasn't happening. If I paid for it, I'd be out of money and in the hole. I wouldn't be able to pay rent, wouldn't be able to get groceries. And so my brain was going back to the past saying, Alan, based off all this information, look at your bank accounts, look at this, look at how the world works, look at how this works, look at how marketing works, look at how sales work. Based off all this information, if you made this decision doesn't make any sense. And that's our brain's first line of defense when we're at an impossible decision. It likes to tell us by referencing the past, this decision doesn't make sense. And so I felt that. And then I'm listening to my heart and I'm feeling this person's energy. I'm feeling the future. I'm feeling the possibility of expansion. Open blank canvas creation in front of me. What if this person is the person that's going to help me get to the next level? And I felt that. And I'm like, that feels right. Alan, that doesn't make sense. It feels right. Alan, that doesn't make sense. And so I was like, screw it. I teach people this all the time. Why wouldn't I do it myself? And so even though it didn't make any sense, paid for the coaching. And at that point, I was like, oh, I'm going to die because I don't have any money. I'm not being able to pay rent. And weirdly enough, the motivation that came after that, the energy that came after that, because I paid for the coaching, I transferred the money, didn't die. I'm still here. And for whatever reason, the number one feeling I had was just total pure liberation. And that energy allowed me to go and be resourceful and just go for it. It wasn't out of desperation. It was out of pure just like, let's go. This is amazing to have. And I learned in that moment that financial freedom doesn't come once you've made enough money. Financial freedom comes when you stop allowing money to dictate all of your decision making. So that to me was one of those moments where I was faced with a decision that was terrifying to me, that up until that point, I had never made that quote unquote irresponsible of a decision. And after that point, quite literally, like my whole world changed, because again, that belief, that paradigm about money could no longer exist. Gone.
You know, that story you mentioned is the perfect example of put your money where your mouth is. You know, it is, you know, and I think that's a really big issue, you know. Sometimes you're just gonna have to take that risk. And again, this is an excellent interview, but I kind of want to focus a bit more on what you do. So on your career. So what are some of the services that you offer in your business, and what is your business about?
Yeah. So the primary service that I have is really one-on-one and group coaching. So I found that there's a place for this kind of work that I'm doing. It's deep work. We're going into what's real. We're not dancing around stuff. People can get very uncomfortable when I'm working with them, but it's because I don't mess around. It's like, hey, we're going to face the things that you've been avoiding your entire life, because I'm Alan Mueller. Hi, nice to meet you. That's what I do. So if there's one-on-one coaching where we do deep work and more intimate things, and again, the whole point of there is to really work on the stuff that they wouldn't want to work on in a group, where I'm teaching foundations of really, if I had to boil down, you ask like, what do you do? I give people the tools that they need to make impossible decisions, because you have to understand at the cusp of an impossible decision, the amount of emotions that come up, beliefs that come up, there's so much stuff. And so a lot of what I'm doing is, it's almost like a marathon runner, they run and they go to the gym and they eat right to train for the marathon. I'm doing a lot of like emotional and psychological, like working out with the clients, so they're prepared when the big decisions come. So that's a lot of the one-on-one stuff, is like deep, intimate work that I couldn't do in a group setting. On top of that, there's the group stuff. And I found that when you combine one-on-one coaching and group coaching, there's something really magical about watching a human being go through a deep intervention, being really vulnerable in a room full of 20, 30 people. Because I found that when one person goes through something really powerful, it ripples through the whole room and they get a really beautiful lesson out of it also. So it's a combination of one-on-one coaching and group coaching, all designed to move somebody through what I call the path of purpose. That I noticed that in getting myself to understand who I am, why I'm here, and how I'm meant to bring it to the world, there's a process to that. There's a linear thing to it. And so I just noticed that in that path, there are 3 distinct journeys, and I call them journeys, not stages, because they're not meant to be gotten through. They're meant to be really in. The first journey in a path of purpose is clarity. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know how I'm meant to bring it to the world. I just know there's more. And I want to figure these things out so I can have some direction. And in clarity, the biggest things that I focus on are understanding the difference between the head and the heart. Understanding when the head is driving, i.e. fear and limiting beliefs, and when the heart is driving, this inexplicable pull to become more and do more, and really teaching people the nuanced experience of identifying the difference between the two. Because if they can identify the difference between the two, it's only a matter of time before they lead themselves into an extraordinary life. So that's what happens in clarity. Once they get that muscle down to be able to identify the difference between the head and the heart, know what that energy feels like, and they start taking some action forward, they'll eventually hit this threshold. They'll hit this point where they'll go, oh, I don't exactly know who I am, why I'm here, how much brings the world, but I do know that I want to keep taking this kind of action. So now all of a sudden they go from being in this floaty space to being in forward momentum, which takes them to the second journey in the path, which is courage. In courage, what's going to happen is most of us have built a life from our head. We've built a life that makes sense, that is good based off our conditioning, based off of our upbringing, based off of what was going to make us a safe amount of income. And what we unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I think it's the best part personally, but in courage, it's the process of undoing that. It's the process of recreating all those things that you created from your head and instead creating them from your heart. And that process is something I just call correcting misalignments. So we're correcting misalignments and allowing the heart to be more of the leader, and then eliminate the headpiece, which then at the end of courage leads someone usually to an all or nothing moment. And this all or nothing moment, there's usually one huge misalignment, one really big thing that has someone stuck, and they've been ignoring it for a long time because it was so big. This could be anything from, and I'm not messing around, this is just really real what clients go through. It can be anything from leaving their spouse that they're not actually in love with. It can be starting a business. It can be quitting their job. It can be moving out of the country, whatever it is. It can be it's usually a big thing they've been avoiding for a long time, or allowing money to control their entire life, whatever it is. They get to that all or nothing decision. Once they make that decision, they experience this just total liberation and freedom, which brings them into the final journey, which is creation. In courage, there's this up and down roller coaster where you're like, everything's great, everything sucks, everything's great, everything sucks. But in creation, it's different. Creation, it's a slow increase in your excitement, in your quality of life, in your passion, in your joy, with moments of pain, because limiting beliefs never go away. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not sitting here being like, I've eliminated all of my limiting beliefs in life. That's not true. I still have plenty that I get to work on and get to move through. But in creation, rather, instead of unconsciously being on this roller coaster of ups and downs, you're now in the driver's seat. You're building your life by design. And that's what I take people on. And that's how I move difference makers through that process. Is that helpful?
That is very helpful. And I'm interested to know now, can you sort of share a story of someone's life that you may have changed or transformed? What was your best success story or testimonial you've received?
Sure. That's a great question. So there's one client who, this is pretty recent, actually, their transformation. They came to my coaching because they didn't know what it was. They just resonated with what I was talking about. They resonated with the fact they had tried everything. They'd done everything. They went to all the personal growth events. They did all the books. They knew all the stuff. They knew it all. But life still wasn't where they wanted it to be. They weren't feeling any of it. And they, in a sense, had become a breakthrough junkie. They were just looking for the next breakthrough. It's like, oh, if I have enough breakthroughs, then my life is going to be good. And that's a trap. Looking for breakthroughs to have an extraordinary life it's backwards. It's not the right way to do it. And so this person, their business was stagnating. And the more I dove in, they were like, I actually really hate my business. I want to get out of it. I'm starting to resent my clients. The money's not coming in. The people aren't coming in. Nothing's working. I don't know what to do. And what I could tell was this person basically had built an entire life using this, everything that made sense. And they didn't actually understand what they loved. And so they were someone who definitely, I would say, was in clarity. They had built this whole quote unquote fake life, but not one that they truly loved. This client, I was so proud of them. Over the course of 3 months, were making so much progress. They were just eliminating stuff from their life that wasn't there. People that they were like, oh my God, I don't need that person in my life. This person's abusing me. I've been tolerating this kind of talk, tolerating this kind of behavior. And none of it looked like it related to business. None of it looked like it was actually helping their business. But as they were starting to clear things out of their life and eliminate stuff, eliminate people, eliminate companies, and begin to start doing, what do I actually enjoy doing? This person, one of the things they really enjoyed was dancing, and they were never going out dancing. And I said, well, what do you feel when you dance? They were like, I feel sexy. I feel beautiful. I feel feminine. I feel amazing. I was like, when's the last time you danced? And they said, oh, probably 3 years ago. I was like, your next assignment is to go dancing tonight, right now. I don't care where you go. You're going dancing. She's like, what? I'm like, now, go do it. She's like, that doesn't make sense. I said, great. The best decisions in life don't make sense. And so as we started to build a life truly in the image of who she was, she started to understand, wow, wait, I think I have a better idea of what I actually want my business to be about. I think I know what my mission actually is, my purpose actually is, and what I really want to give people. So as she started to become more personally happy, gave her clarity in what she wanted to bring, that started to show up in her messaging and social media. Over the course of about a month to 2 months, she went from stagnant, nothing, nobody responding, reactions at a low level. It was almost like out of nowhere. Everything clicked. Her engagement quadrupled. More likes, more comments, more reactions on everything. And in the last month, this client has booked 14 sales calls.
Wow.
And so again, it's like, and this person was someone who everything looked like it was at a total standstill. But again, it's because this individual, they're a difference maker. They're not motivated by the money. They're not motivated by the success. They're not motivated by all that stuff. They thought they were, because that's how society told them they needed to be. But when you get deeper and you realize, nope, I'm actually motivated by making a really big difference and giving as much love to people as I can. You can feel that through social media today. You can feel that through messaging when someone really cares or when someone doesn't. And I think people are ready to experience real stuff. And I think that's why she blew up so quickly. Or there was another client who, this is a mini story, where this client, from day one, I could tell this person was a world changer. Like when I'm talking to someone, I can tell if they're designed to speak intimately with one-to-one stuff, if they're designed to speak one to a few, one to many, or one to mass. And every time this person spoke, it was like she was designed to speak to stadiums of people. And we were working together for a while, and this person never made a TikTok. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you realize we live in the one time in history where you have for free the ability, the possibility to reach millions of humans effortlessly. What's happening? And we did a little more work around it. Long story short, she went from not having a TikTok. Her first TikTok got 150K views on it. And now she's climbing in total views in her TikTok channel well over the millions. And in part, it's because this is another little thing I'll give your listeners, is every difference maker, they have something that I call their primary activity. So we all have to wear, as entrepreneurs, multiple hats. We all have to do multiple things. And there's one thing in particular that a difference maker just loves to do. The thing that, Jimbo, like you mentioned before, when you asked me, Alan, what creates you a space where you lose track of time? That one thing that a difference maker could be doing it for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it would just be fun for them. They would love doing it, their primary activity. And if a difference maker focuses on this primary activity, everything leads to the primary activity. Everything will fall into place for them. So example, my primary activity is coaching interactives. And so if someone were to come into my business tomorrow and they were to say, Alan, how can I serve you and how can I help your business grow? I would say, get me in as many coaching interactives as you possibly can, easier, wider spread, whatever you can do. Get me in more interactives. Why? It's my primary activity. For this client, her primary activity is content creation. She loves making content, just really enjoys it. It's everything. And in her business, she was the CEO of her company, and she was taking on all this responsibility, not making content. And the primary thing that can break down a difference maker for life is if they are constantly denying themselves of their primary activity. They lose their light, they lose their energy, they lose their joy. And at the end of the day, The reason a movement occurs around a difference maker is because of their light, is because of what lights them up and gets them passionate. And for this client, it was making content. So now we made some adjustments, brought some things into her awareness. She's making content constantly, and she's blowing up. So those are a couple success stories of clients I work with.
Excellent. And it's basically the same thing you said before. You sort of help them to ask the questions in themselves. You found their alignment, but then they also had to do their own work. They had to take responsibility and take action as well. So it's really a two-part process, as you explained before. So again, this has been an amazing interview. I definitely learned a lot, and I think the audience will learn a lot too about this as well. Now, to sort of end this off, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice that I have ever received. Forgive me, it's going to take me a second because I really want to give you a good answer on that. I'd say the best advice that I've ever received is to be unreasonable with life. Meaning, be unreasonable in what you ask for. Be unreasonable with how much you try, how much you give, how much you do. When we watch the movies, when we watch the rom-coms or the greatest stories, we don't get lit up because some person, did a tiny little thing and we're like, oh, that was cool. We love rom-coms or those big romantic movies because the guy or the girl, they go do this big, massive, unreasonable, ridiculous gesture at the end. What? The plane's leaving. Why'd you jump through the door? Like that kind of stuff. And I found that being unreasonable with life is the best advice that I've ever been given. Beautiful
answer. All right. This is Alan. And one quick thing I need you to say is, and I want to give you all the spotlight here. How can we reach you? How can people get to you? How can people talk to you? How can people continue to find out more about you and just, learn and improve themselves?
Best place would be my Instagram. So my Instagram is just my last name. It's MUELLEGGER. You send me a DM, I will respond. I'm in there very frequently. And so my Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me.
All right, everyone. This is the Jimbo Paris Show. We just had Alan, the CEO of Purpose Driven Coaching, big boss here, focus on improving people's lives. All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. I'm currently working on a passion project that I'm really excited about, but I need your help to bring it to life. We'll be launching soon our very own Jimbo Paris Academy. And this is going to be about aspiring creators and creating concepts. Thank you for your support. I'm sharing free bonus content to supporters. So let's make some amazing content together. Our affiliate partner, LifeWork Systems, focused on helping create a better collegial environment, looking at the mental health of business workers, business employees, and overall bringing the business up. Thank you for listening to the Jimbo Paris Show.